A very good afternoon. Thank you for joining our Fireside chat, Achieving Secure Network Transformation in today's cloud-enabled ecosystem. Welcome. My name is Paul, and I'm your host for today. We all know the IT and networking teams today have to contend with a host of challenges, providing safe access to crucial private data, supporting distributed workforces, and ensuring cloud and application performance amidst growing usage. Whether you have 2 offices or 200, secure network transformation can support your enterprise to fortify security and differentiate in a competitive landscape. I have with me speakers with diverse and rich experience in security and networking. Thank you. All right. Kenny Yeo, Associate Director, Head of Asia Pacific Cybersecurity Practice, Frost & Sullivan. Fiona, Associate Director of Business Products from Singtel. And Johnny, Director of Emerging Technologies, Trustwave. But before we get into the Fireside Chat segment, Kenny will first set the stage with a quick overview of SD-WAN and why securing it is increasingly vital in today's cloud-centric world. Over to you, Kenny.
Thank you so much, Paul. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session today. It's really an honor to be here to be able to share with you a bit about what it means to have secure network transformation today. My name is Kenny, first and foremost. I'm from Frost & Sullivan, and I'm taking care of the Asia Pacific cybersecurity practice. Now, today, our topic and what I will attempt to do as an introduction to this entire session is really give you a good understanding of what it means to think about security, about network transformation, and about this new area of secure SD-WAN. So in the next few sections, I will be giving you an introduction to the terminology we're going to be using, as well as some of the key value that you will get from using a solution or a service like this for your enterprise. Okay, so as we start, firstly, I want to give you a bit of a backdrop and use an example to help us to navigate our conversation today. Now, in the box on the left that you see here, you see an example distributed enterprise that has a regional kind of coverage across the Asia Pacific region. So we use this example enterprise as a sort of a way for us to discuss the whole issue around SD-WAN and secure SD-WAN in today's environment. So this example enterprise has its headquarters in Singapore. It has multiple branches across multiple cities, including Japan, Korea, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia. Now, each of these branches are connected to the central headquarters, which has the main data center as well as the data center security in Singapore. Each of the branches is using an MPLS link to have a secure connection between each of the branches. Now, that's the example that we're going to be using in the next section. So what are the key factors that are influencing enterprises today as they go through their enterprise transformation? I think 4 of the factors are coming up very, very strongly today. Number 1, organizations really are driven to adapt digital transformation much, much more. I think the life that we're living today is a reflection really of how the pandemic has impacted all of us. No longer are we able to actually meet in person to actually have this conversation, this kind of presentation. We're no longer able to meet our clients face-to-face for lunch or for breakfast. We're no longer to have informal conversations over coffee. All of us are restricted in a way to use digital means to reach out to our clients and our personal lives and our loved ones as well. So when we look at digital transformation and we look at the move to digital, we see that this very strong move now, based on our analysis, of organizations moving and accelerating their digital transformation, specifically because they're not able to physically engage with their clients. So digital transformation and digital touch points with their clients becomes so much more important in this environment. So the first key point really is around how organizations are driven to adapt to digital transformation because of today's COVID pandemic. Number two is around cost efficiency. All of us want to make sure that we have the best value for money. We want to make sure that our enterprise is well suited and well provisioned in terms of connectivity and networking, but we also want to make sure that we have the best cost efficiency. So that's always one of the key drivers in terms of network transformation. The third one is around management and configuration. Now, this is a big issue, especially as you grow larger and larger and larger. Now, some organizations that we've talked to, in a kind of, going back to this example enterprise, if I had to make a configuration change, let's say, in my Japan office, in certain cases, if you're using older technology, they actually had to fly down, the IT guy or the networking guy, or they had to pay for a service provider or system integrator to go down on site to the Japanese office to make that configuration and management change. Now, can you imagine if you were a much larger enterprise with 50, 100, 200 branches? It becomes almost impossible to manage. So the easier management and configuration becomes a very, very important point as well. And the fourth one is really the rise of the cloud. And I will touch on this in a bit more detail later on. But cloud and cloud adoption is really growing today, especially amidst the COVID pandemic. And we see that this rise of the cloud is causing enterprises to have to adapt the way they chose to help their enterprise better perform in terms of the cloud performance and network performance. So the cloud is also going to be a big factor. Now, today we will be discussing three main points in this presentation. Firstly, what is SD-WAN? Some of us may not be so familiar with this term and what it does, and how does it differ from secure SD-WAN? Number two, what are Asia-Pacific IT decision makers thinking about secure SD-WAN? How are they thinking about this? What are their tendencies as they go about doing this network transformation? That's number two. And number three, the key considerations when thinking about secure SD-WAN. We hope to leave you some talking points, some thinking points as you consider what to do next in your organization. Now, as we start off on the first section regarding secure SD-WAN and the definitions, the data that you'll be seeing today is a combination of Frost & Sullivan's research in this area, and we actually have published a report around secure SD-WAN in the Asia-Pacific space. We also wanted to make it as relevant as possible for you, the person in the attending this session today. We want to make sure that you have something to take away, and today we'll be sharing with you data and viewpoints from your peers, other IT decision makers across the Asia-Pacific space as well. So we'll be sharing with you two different types of information, and we hope that you find this interesting and useful for yourself. Now, let's start off firstly. What is SD-WAN? You may have heard the term, but you may not be very clear about what it means. So SD-WAN stands for Software-Defined Wide Area Network. It's a technology that incorporates software-defined networking, or SDN, to WAN connections. And in general, SD-WAN in itself is not a new technology. It has been around for some time, and it's already increasingly becoming more and more popular among enterprises. When you look at this from the key properties of SD-WAN solutions and services, you see that there are three main properties. Number one, SD-WAN is able to connect and support multiple types of connections. It means that a particular branch with very unique kind of location maybe and a unique networking constraints is able to use a combination of available connectivity to make sure that they remain online, they remain connected, and they remain able to serve their customers well. So it could be a combination of, let's say, MPLS, Internet, LTE 4G, or even the coming 5G connections. All those are possible. So that's one of the key factors, one of the key properties of SD-WAN solution, multiple connection types. The second key property is around dynamic path selection. Dynamic path selection means that you're able to do quality of service definitions. So one example of this is really what we're going through right now. We are viewing this session, having this session over video conferencing, over web conferencing. Now, we all know that the demand and the usage of web conferencing has dramatically jumped in the past few months because of the COVID pandemic and so much of us working from home. So, organizations could specifically say that they want to prioritize web conferencing, video conferencing in terms of quality, so that organizations, then staff and customers can have the best possible experience. So that's one possibility. Or organizations could also configure it that maybe they give more bandwidth and more allowance for critical infrastructure. It could be critical applications which need near to real-time linkages for data. So those kinds of applications can all be configured dynamically. And the third one, of course, is the ease of use. Now, some SD-WAN has really progressed over time. And now it has become very, very easy to do remote configuration. And in some cases, some solutions and managed services also have zero-touch provisioning, meaning that you just take it out of the box, connect it to the network, and remotely you're able to do the connection and provisioning and management. So the ease of use, especially when you're a larger organization with multiple branches to set up, becomes a very, very important point. Now, we all know that cloud apps are changing the way that we work today. Now, for all of us, many of us in our own enterprise working in our own company, we use software applications, SaaS applications. We use things like Salesforce. We use things like Microsoft 365. We use Dropbox. We use even Zoom and WebEx, for example. This explosion of cloud applications is really, unfortunately, leading to certain times where there are bottlenecks, inefficiencies, there could be bad connections within the network. Now, going back to our example enterprise, the headquarters is typically the main place where the data center and the security is stationed. So it means that in terms of traffic scanning, both inbound and outbound, that's typically done at the data center. So the branch would send all its traffic and its requests, inbound, outbound traffic, to the data center. The data center would then do a scan before letting it out over the internet to the SaaS application. Now, this explosion of cloud applications, this explosion of usage of SaaS apps is really leading to organizations and branches suffering, because more and more video is being used, more and more data and requests is going through the internet instead of internal applications, internal data stores. It means that sometimes the quality of service is going to be impacted. And this has a direct impact on the employee efficiency in the way that they get the data, they get updates on data, and also ultimately the way that they serve customers as well. All of us want instantaneous and fast access to data. None of us want a laggy connection and causing us to wait and get frustrated. So I think one of the key issues really is around the explosion of cloud apps. Enhanced security is also a big issue today. Now, as you know, many of us are working from home. Many of us are using our own, sometimes our own computers, our own mobile devices over insecure networks. That's really causing big headaches among the IT team. When you think about it from a branch and a headquarters perspective, the branches are also vital in terms of security, because attackers would also want to penetrate the main network, the main organization, and potentially one way they could do it is by penetrating the branch, going through the branch, going to the headquarters, and then then attacking the main enterprise as a whole. So what happens? We see that these enterprises are becoming much more cautious. They're becoming much more aware of security and the need for security. And we see that security is becoming a priority. And the whole idea of SD-WAN is slowly progressing to become secure SD-WAN. Organizations we see have been placing more focus on securing their SD-WAN environments so that it is secure and it's integrated, so that the IT team does not have to figure out how to have a separate security solution a separate SD-WAN solution and having to integrate that on their own. Organizations and IT teams are trying to reduce the IT and cybersecurity complexity. They want to reduce the number of boxes that they manage, reduce the number of integration they have to figure out. So security is becoming a big concern. The teams themselves are looking at security more and more earlier as they decide on solutions. And also they're trying to reduce the level of complexity and integration that they need to figure out. So enhanced security is becoming more and more important. So now that we know some of the key factors around SD-WAN and the drivers of the conversion towards secure SD-WAN, what do we know about secure SD-WAN? So Frost and Sullivan defines secure SD-WAN as SD-WAN technology integrated with advanced security capabilities. Now, what are these security capabilities? These are three different areas that you have to take note of. So number one, it could be the area of data protection, user device application control, security control, and threat protection. From a services standpoint, when you look at secure SD-WAN services, managed detection and response could be one of the services. It could also be managed threat hunting, could be another of the services. So all these key factors are key requirements when you start thinking about secure SD-WAN solutions and services today. Now, in the first section, we've talked a lot about what SD-WAN is and what secure SD-WAN is. So in this next section, we want to go deeper and find out what your peers, other IT decision makers, are thinking when they think about SD-WAN and network transformation. Firstly, we asked our respondents, 100 respondents in APAC over very recently in July, how many SaaS applications does your organization use? Interestingly, we see that 60% of APAC enterprises already use more than 10 SaaS applications today. So what we mentioned earlier about the rise of cloud, about the rise of SaaS applications is becoming very real today. So many organizations across APAC are increasingly adopting SaaS and cloud. When you look at it from integration of security and SD-WAN, we ask the question, is it important to integrate security with SD-WAN? And it's very heartening to see that 90% of the respondents actually say that it's vital to integrate security with SD-WAN. When asked, is your deployed SD-WAN solution integrated with security? If you see on the right, 2/3 of enterprises have already integrated security. So we see that this is great progress. It means that organizations have really taken to heart that security is a fundamental part of their organization, even from a WAN perspective and their networks and connecting their branches together. So this is a very important and useful point. When we look at it from integrated security and the problems that really IT teams face in terms of security, if you look at the chart on the left first, the different security solutions used in enterprises, we see that more than 50% have more than 10 cybersecurity solutions. It really means that the IT teams have to deal with so many different solutions, different brands, different environments and deployments, even down to different eras of applications and solutions. A particular solution could be a legacy solution that has been bought many, many years ago and is still running today. So organizations and IT teams have to grapple with so many different problems with lights to complexity and cybersecurity complexity. When you look on the right, we asked what are the main cybersecurity challenges faced by your organization? And the top three issues are number one, data security issues due to IoT initiatives, which is interesting. So it really shows that APAC enterprises are going more into IoT. Number 2 and 3 are also very interesting because it talks about insider threats. Number 2, insider threats from a disgruntled employees, financially motivated employees. And number 3, insider threats from accidental actions of an employees. It really shows that, number one, data security. Organizations are going into new initiatives. Complexity is becoming such a big problem. Number 2, insider threats, your human factor, the people in your organization. Even though they are vital to the operations of your organization, they can also potentially be a key threat your organization. So it's very important to make sure that you take care of the data, you take care of the insider threats and the people within your organization. So where does that leave us? What are the key drivers that we should take note of, the key questions we should think about? So revisiting the first data point around SaaS applications. You see the key applications that we use today again and again. We have the Office 365 email, we have Dropbox, Google Cloud Platform. All these applications are the most popular. And these are the ones that are really causing our enterprise, it could be causing our enterprise more and more bottlenecks and service issues because it puts a strain on the network communications. Secure SD-WAN can potentially help your enterprise, to manage your distributed locations better, especially in this reliance on cloud and how it's growing. So the first key question really for all of us to consider is, what is your organization's stand on cloud and SaaS applications? Is it increasing? Is it going to accelerate? Or is it something that you are just having a still wait and see kind of attitude? If it is accelerating, then you have to really consider how you cater to these needs of your customers and your employees so you can better enable them to work. The second key driver is around native cybersecurity features. Typically, pure play SD-WAN solutions do not have very strong cybersecurity features. So the second key question that you have to consider when you're thinking about this secure network transformation is there sufficient security? Is your service provider, is your solution actually, does it have enough advanced cybersecurity features so that you can help your organization be better prepared? Number three is around the management of security together with SD-WAN. I think we've seen many examples of data points of how complexity is a big issue facing IT teams today, about the number of environments they have to cater to, the number of applications, the number of SaaS deployments, number of SaaS applications they have to deal with. So the management of security with SD-WAN is something that the IT team doesn't need an additional burden on. So very often IT teams have to really consider, is there an integrated way to deliver this outcome for my organization? So the third key question for all of us, as you consider this is, how do you reduce complexity? How do I enable my IT team to be better prepared, to help them better manage the whole issue of IT and cybersecurity complexity within my organization? Okay, so we have talked about the three key points here, and I wanted to use this last section to really summarize this into the key considerations, but also the key outcomes. So the key considerations are on the left, and the outcomes and the ROI is what I consider on the right. Number one, why is SD-WAN now a business critical necessity? Number one, it enables organizational efficiency. It allows, as an outcome, your employees to get better experiences. They get better, faster, more consistent access to data and applications. And in turn, they're able to better serve your customers in a digital manner, especially today, in today's COVID pandemic. Number two, streamlining management and configuration. You're actually helping your organization, IT team, better cope with network and cybersecurity complexity on the right. You're actually helping this team to be able to better manage with the resources that they already have. Number three, enhancing agility and cybersecurity capabilities. The whole point of a secure SD-WAN solution is on the right, to make sure that the entire organization, not just the headquarters, but all the branches as well in the distributed enterprise are protected, and that security is similarly put down across the entire enterprise, so that there's no weak link and every single branch is adequately prepared. So we've talked about a few things today. We've talked about what SD-WAN is, what secure SD-WAN is. We've talked about how different IT decision makers across Asia Pacific are thinking about it, and we've talked about the key business, the key business factors and ROI about secure SD-WAN. So, we wanted to use this as a real introduction into how we think about secure SD-WAN as we move into the following section, where we have a fireside chat, and later on, when we go to Q&A. Okay, thank you so much. That's the end of my presentation. Paul, I hand it over back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenny. That was a really clear and detailed primer on what secure SD-WAN is. Now, right now, we're going to start our Fireside chat in just a moment. For those of you who might just have joined us, now we have with us panelists with diverse and deep experience in security and networking. Right, we have Fiona of Singtel and Johnny of Trustwave. Kenny, who just did the primer with us, will lead the discussion. Now, if you have any questions during the Fireside chat, please direct them to the chat box that you see on your screen. I'll be keeping an eye for them, and I'll bring out the questions to our panelists after the Fireside chat during the Q&A segment. Over to you, Kenny.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Hi, guys. Good to see you on the call, and thanks for joining our Fireside chat discussion. Right? Fiona and Johnny, we've gone through just very quickly, the key factors around the secure SD-WAN space, the importance of doing a secure network transformation. So maybe I'll ask the first question to Fiona first. When you talk to your clients today, what are the biggest challenges they face to manage their distributed network?
Some of the customers' challenge that we see today are cloud adoption and digitalization. So we find that as customers start to explore public cloud services and third-party SaaS application, IT workloads tend to be quite mainly hybrid, and we find that is likely going to continue in the next few years. So a lot of our customers actually start looking at SD-WAN to solve and improve some of the network performance and strengthen security in such a hybrid networking environments. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much. Johnny, I want to move on to you. Yeah. So, we've talked about security, and, you are the security expert, one of the security experts at Trustwave. Maybe in a general sense first, why is cybersecurity becoming such a big issue for enterprises today?
So I think if Kenny rightfully brought up, right, I think everybody's looking towards digital transformation, right? And a lot of that actually talks about moving to the cloud. And cloud also involves a lot of internet. And in fact, one of the key things I think as the top management looks at it, right, from a business driver perspective, they look at risk. And in that context, cyber risk becomes a key concern. And in relation to that, really, cybersecurity itself. So I think key items such as considerations around cloud, even extended into third-party suppliers, because in the end, you are actually going to be relying more and more on service providers as well. Yeah, in actually providing your businesses.
Got it. To expand on that, you mentioned about cyber risk, right? Do you feel that today enterprises are sufficiently aware of cyber risk?
I would say with all the current bad news that's happening in the world today, I think the breaches actually really already have bring up the awareness. But I think while they're aware of it, is how do they interlink that to their own environment, right? So how do they actually build? So a lot of times the difficulty is that it falls back to the fundamentals, right? Besides putting in technologies, you have to review your processes as well as your expertise. And one of the biggest things they need to take care of actually is the expertise of the people part, which may not be just your experts, but actually your whole organization mindset in terms of even using these new services, be it SaaS and so on.
Correct. That's a great point. I have a follow-up question for you, Johnny. I mean, you talked about it from everybody has to be involved in cybersecurity, right? So it's not just the specific team or the management teams. I have a question regarding teams, because in certain organizations, the networking team and the cybersecurity team are separate, right? So they make decisions quite independently. And I think many of the people on the call may also be in that situation. So why is it that the cybersecurity should be more and more crucial when you're thinking about it from a networking perspective, from an SD-WAN perspective today?
So if we talk about how SD-WAN or the network transformation is taking, I think the keyword, if you look at it, is SD, right? Software defined. In fact, actually that is making it working more like the cloud. And a lot of times, I think if you study how the cloud operations has evolved, that also, I mean, you heard of DevOps. So in fact, that also means that similarly, I think from a network operations perspective, right, it starts to actually integrate into the whole overall operations, how you are integrating with how you roll out services, how your business rollouts together. So SD-WAN actually evolves that way. So it becomes more of an integrated approach, very similar to what you experience as people adopt the cloud as well. Be the system guy, the network guy actually has to start working very closely with the application guy as well. That's as well as security be part of it.
Yeah. So the thinking you're saying basically is joining together earlier than later, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Fiona, I have a follow-up question for you, right? So one of the findings, and this is something you mentioned earlier as well, is about the rising adoption of cloud and cloud services. You mentioned that your clients actually are facing that more and more. Is this a key factor in your conversations with your customers today?
We find that actually one of the main thing is that when our customers adopt cloud and cloud services, some of the pain points that they have in such a hybrid setup are, differences in service levels, differences in charging and consumption models between their cloud and their WAN environment. So there's always because of a different platform, there's always a lack of visibility, an end-to-end visibility between these environments. And we find that without metrics, right, there is no way for network for them to implement any actionable improvement to improve how to better improve user experience. So SD-WAN what then is then a solution for the customer, because through SD-WAN customer can use it to actually gain visibility and improve their WAN experience at the same time. So depending on right how some of the solutions that we have proposed for some of our customers are, take for example, if the customer is looking at going to the cloud, we could actually easily deploy virtualized SD-WAN instance into these public cloud environments. And then they can make use of policy-based routing to improve network performance anywhere between the end users and their cloud environment. And there's also another group of customers who are looking at using SD-WAN to improve their SaaS applications, to have their SaaS, to be able to reach their SaaS providers in the shortest route possible, right, in a more direct manner, as close as possible. So that's where we actually have our global SD-WAN gateway infrastructure, basically to reach our enterprise users and their third-party SaaS provider in a very controlled and deterministic routing between them. So to actually bridge this so that it gives them better network performance, and at the same time provide them the visibility that they need to allow them to better optimize network performance between any routing segments between end users and the cloud services, and then give their end users a better experience from a WAN perspective.
Got it. Thank you. In terms of managed services, because I think one of the things that you guys do as well is also help clients to manage their SD-WAN. What are some of the things that drive a client to go to manage SD-WAN, versus operating it in-house? Why would that jump be important for some clients?
I think just like what you mentioned just now, as customers are trying to digitalize their business, they are really grappling, with digitalization efforts around IT systems. And today we also see about operational technology system, because these two needs to come together in order to fully digitalize business needs. And not to forget, SD-WAN deployments are also coupled with cloud and security integrations, which a lot of them actually require cross-domain knowledge. And we find that different SD-WAN solutions also have different strengths to fulfill different use cases. So with so many variants and so many considerations, right? Today, how does customer choose? And depending on what they choose, it's not about just delivery. There's also a day one, the design portion. There's also a day two, maintaining it. So I think in order to really provide the best quality of experience for the end user, it really requires a certain level of experience. And that's how we feel that managed SD-WAN service will help to mitigate these challenges and future-proof the network for further developments to come, for example, 5G, which we have also mentioned earlier on.
Got it. So it's really a combination of the past experience about knowing the different ways of really helping a client, because you mentioned it's not just SD-WAN, it's also cloud, it's also security, sort of all bundled in together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, Johnny, I have a follow-up question for you. Yeah. So we heard about Fiona mentioning about the integration of, in a way, so many different hats you have to put on, right? You have to put on the SD-WAN hat, the networking hat, the cloud hat, how does Trustwave really help on the security part for an organization that is going down that route?
So finally, I think if we talk about the security expertise, that's also a tough talent find actually, and probably for security even worse, because actually the breadth is security by itself is horizontal. So you are looking at people that is coming in strongly from the process and policies, looking at technologies, even then from architecture, there's also people in ability to do testing. And then of course the key part is also the whole operational part in terms of being from even to do investigations, as well as even the areas of threat hunting. So a lot of cases when we look at this, I think it is for customers a decision between balancing your talents in-house and what is important to you to maintain, right? So sometimes for a lot of customers, especially if they're on a higher level of maturity and already beyond looking at broad deployment, global networks, including SD-WAN and so on, they will take a look at the key expertise they want to maintain in-house, which could be just threat hunting and especially intelligence that they want. And with that, they actually will, what Trustwave does actually is fundamentally, we also work with them to actually augment that. Because through that augmentation is what we can do is also we will support them with the intelligence, as well as the expertise, as well as the global view in terms of what we see through our security operations globally as well. And of course, a lot of times, even the starting stage, if they are not into that stage and just thinking of even transforming, transformation involves security transformation. And that is actually reviewing all your policies, your current controls, even your architecture before you actually move ahead. So a lot of times there is actually a whole planning consultancy stage before you even talk about the implementation. So this is actually the first thought of that you actually need to review everything you have as a starting. Yeah.
Got it. So sounds like the level, just like Fiona mentioned, it sounds like the level of experience is very important, because you could try to do it yourself, but in certain cases, and we all know about the expertise issue across the industry, you may not even be able to try to do it on your own, right?
And sometimes I think because we've been handling customers, what we can bring and the experience to the table is the other use cases we've seen. And a lot of times I think that's what the customer wants to learn, and if they can, that will actually accelerate their own transformation, because we've seen the similar scenarios. We can actually help them to not go into the same issues that they face, really getting them to actually learn their internal organization and actually move ahead faster with the decisions as well. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. That's a great point. It really is about can you really balance that? If you can't, then you could actually ask someone else to do it on a better performance, right? Yeah, got it. We want to also make this practical. One of the things about going for a webinar, seminar like this is sometimes it's just good to know, and it really doesn't translate into any action. So what we want to do is we're going to help our attendees today to really take an immediate next step, a next action, if you will, to make it practical for them as they go through this journey for network transformation as well. So maybe start with Fiona. What should the enterprise, the enterprises that are on call today, what they should really think about first? What's the first thing they should think about when they want to move down this journey of network transformation?
I think SD-WAN really bring WAN, cloud, and security integration to another level. Just like what we also spoke about just now, frankly, we see organizations most successful in their SD-WAN deployments if these departments, the cloud, the security, and the WAN, are actually in the same towers. But most enterprises are not set up like that. We often, we always see very silo solutions. It's very hard for them to come together and say, hey, how do I do this transformation together? How should making be made across all these segments? So I think it'd be best for such a scenario, really best to consider to engage a third-party SD-WAN service provider like Singtel to help access these across and devise a SD-WAN setup and solution that best suit the enterprise operations. Really look at it as a poll for a fresh pair of eyes, coupled with some of the experience that we have from deploying such networks, we see how we can best help to, design something that's most suitable for the business operations.
Got it. So Fiona, like you're saying basically also that from a mindset point of view, I think the different teams also have to get in sync in a way, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, because the different teams sort of, like you mentioned, can be siloed in certain organizations. So it's very important for them to have that kind of a combined mindset in a way. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. Johnny, over to you. Also, same thing. We talk about network transformation, but today we want to focus on secure network transformation. So what should the audience prioritize as their immediate next steps when they go down this journey?
So if I look at it, I think like similar to what Fiona said, one of the key things I want to highlight is the word visibility. So if we come across that, the very first step I think you need to take is to actually review your whole asset management and visibility systems as well. So without knowing what you have or able to maybe operationalize that, I think that is already the first potential failure in any plan, because you don't know what you're going into without having that. And sometimes on the security side, in fact, I think for most of our customers, they will embark on actually harmonizing the whole security monitoring first. Because security monitoring will also help to enhance, because as part of the asset, you extend into your security surveillance so that you actually have that first view of what is actually going on within your network before you start doing that transformation, because then you can actually first weed out, I think, what already potential risks that's already lurking or threats that's already lurking in your network even before you start transforming. Because if you transform and you are doing more interconnections, really, enabling it to connect to the clouds and so on, you might be actually exposing yourself. Yes, totally exposing yourself. Yeah, in the whole risk. Yeah. So I think that's really the two keys. That having that full visibility both on the assets as well as what the activities through security monitoring and surveillance harmonization as well.
Great tips. So to summarize what you both just said, right? I think Fiona, you mentioned about having one mindset, the different teams, the network team, cloud team, security team. Maybe that will be the first step. The organization really needs to sit down together. How can you have one mindset to have a secure network transformation, and maybe getting an experienced third party to really come in to help them on that journey, right? And I think, Johnny, you were mentioning first step, what do you have? You're right. Most organizations don't even know what they have in the first place, what assets they have, what risks they have. Many don't even do a risk assessment. They haven't had to in a long time, right? So what you have from an assets point of view, activities point of view, so that you can get better prepared before you even take that first step, right? So, and anything you want to say? Yeah.
Probably the danger is, I think you just brought out, right? If they have not even done this assessment today, as you move to a more software-defined, be it on the network or using the cloud, actually that means that with the constant changes that's happening, be it with your service providers, example, clouds, they tend to roll out a lot of new features and things like that over time. And as you turn them on, what is the risk? So risk assessment becomes continuous. So in fact, that's also one mindset they need to do a continuous risk management approach as well.
Great point. Thank you so much. I think that is the last question I have for our fireside chat. Paul, I'll hand it over to you for any questions from the audience.
Thank you, Gaddy. I have some questions coming from the audience right now. One of them is, how can we secure workload and connections across different platforms such as AWS and Azure? And I think from this participant, I think they probably have a hybrid cloud deployment in mind. Over to Fiona.
Yeah. Actually, over at Singtel, we actually do a lot of product offering service schemes around allowing customers to connect into cloud. We have solutions that allow customers to connect in cloud in a very direct manner, very secure manner. And over when SD-WAN comes, there's also a SD-WAN instance, which I talked about just now, allows customers to actually plug this instance into the cloud environment. At the same time, get security, get network performance through policy-based routing. Another thing that we are really working on is, because we also realize that there's a lot of customers who actually have different platforms, different cloud platforms. In fact, we are currently looking at solutions to actually have the SD-WAN keys put closer into the network for that to direct traffic across different platforms. right? So we actually bring this network closer, as a solution for customers to switch between platforms and have better control in terms of how the traffic are routed across the different cloud platforms as well. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much, Fiona. And I have one last question because we're almost out of time. Our SD-WAN deployment works fine. What kind of discussion should I be having with my IT department to ensure that it is secure? This one probably to Johnny, I believe.
Yeah, so I think the word fine always is subjective. So again, I think it boils down to having that whole assessment. I think on terms what the traffic going on there. I mean, if today one of the key things is like, as the platform offers you that visibility, are you actually monitoring it? So, example like what we said, right? The SD-WAN platform actually does by itself the features allow you to see a lot of the network connections, what it does, and so on. But you need to actually be able to translate that to visibility. And probably the first discussion is: are we even monitoring are we monitoring from a security perspective? Are all the security controls, be it from the necessary encryptions, in terms of even the access, in terms of the network administrative access, are those actually properly being reviewed as well? And at the same time, even those privileged access activities being reviewed. So some of these things are first thing that you need to check on before, make sure that I think things are in. Then of course, that becomes that first part to actually having a discussion into how does this fall back into whatever policies you have, and whether even the policies need to enhance to actually establish and be implemented with the SD-WAN as well.
Thank you, Johnny. So it sounds like if the IT department couldn't really answer about what kind of security policies and procedures they have in place, they probably need to do assessment as soon as possible.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Right. So thank you for joining our Fireside chat today. Our time is up, unfortunately. So, but we're really happy to have you here today. Now, we have with me Frost & Sullivan has created an exclusive white paper for those of us who join us today and to help you equip you for your secure SD-WAN journey. So this exclusive resource you're going to see on your screen right now is available for free download. Now, all you need to do is to do a simple 1-minute survey by taking the QR code, right? And you'll be able to download it. If you don't have a QR code reader, maybe you're on the phone, you can basically access the shortened URL link, which we'll announce on this webinar, and you'll be able to do the same thing. Complete the 1-minute survey, you'll be able to download the free resource for you. So once again, thank you for attending. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.